So example 4, still going to put my labels. Here's my right angle. Across from the right angle is always the hypotenuse. And then I label from the acute angle. And in this picture, the 35 degrees is the acute angle. So one of the unlabeled sides will be the opposite leg, one will be the adjacent leg. Since the 7 is not next to the 35, it's across from the 35, it's my opposite leg. And the unlabeled one will be the adjacent leg. It's the one that I'm going to ignore because it's not labeled. And so I'm going to think, okay, I have an H and I have an O. SOHCAHTOA is telling me that I'm going to use sine, O and H. So just like example 3, I'm going to put sine, I follow that up with my angle, and I set it equal to the fraction. In this case, it's going to be O over H. It's going to be 7 over X. So far this feels pretty identical to example 3. Don't skip over this though, because it is different. When I go to cross multiply, I'm going to put it over 1. On one side of the equal sign, I'm going to get a 7. The other side of the equal sign, I'm getting X times the sine of 35. So unlike example 3, where as soon as I cross multiplied, I was ready to put it in my calculator, when I cross multiplied here, X is by itself. For these ones, when I cross multiply, X is not by itself. So you still have to solve here. I would like X on its own side of the equal sign, but right now it's being multiplied by the sine of 35. The opposite of multiplication is division. I'm going to divide both sides by whatever the decimal is that's the sine of 35. So what I'm putting on this first blank is the answer will be 7 divided by the sine of 35 degrees. That's what I have to get in my calculator. So let's talk the two different types of calculators again. So if you have the forward facing calculator, I'm going to do 7 divided by the sine of 35 degrees and close my parentheses. 12.2 should be what we're aiming for. Now be careful, don't type in sine of 35 divided by 7. That is a very different and very incorrect answer. Don't do that. Can I not delete that? What am I doing? So again, I forgot what I was doing. 7 divided by sine of 35. Okay, 7 divided by sine of 35. So if you have the backwards type, and unfortunately the only backwards type that I have is my phone. So if you have some of the regular calculators you can buy that's just a straight calculator are still the backwards type. So I'm going to go through that. So for this one, I still need to do 7 divided by something, but that something is 35 sine. Then go ahead and divide, I get 12.2. So if you know you have the backwards type of calculator, you do 7 divided by 35 sine equals. So we're all going to get 12.2. So we all start with the 7 divided by in our calculator. It's just some of you can't type sine next. Some of you can, some of you can't, and it's all annoying. Let's try another example. I'm going to do my labels. Here's my right angle, which makes this my hypotenuse. It's not labeled, so I'm going to immediately ignore that. What I need are the labels for X and 13. Since X is right next to that 42, that makes it my adjacent leg. Since 13 is across from the 42, that makes it my opposite leg. And since I'm not using the hypotenuse, we're going to use a tangent equation. Tangent of my angle is equal to the ratio of the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. Since we're trying to get X by itself, I'm going to solve by cross multiplying. 13 times 1 is just a 13. X times the tangent of 42 is X times the tangent of 42. So I have a new equation. My goal is still to solve this. The opposite of multiplying by tangent of 42 to get X by itself is to divide by the tangent of 42. So in some of these, they'll be like example 3, where you just cross multiply, put in your calculator as multiplication. Some of these, you're going to get an equation that still needs solved, which you're going to do by division. So in my calculator, I need to do 13 divided by
Mommy,
this one.
you do the work in the living room.
The living room is too loud because you're watching Mickey in there, so I'm going to do my work in here. So make sure you can get 14.4 out of your calculator no matter which way you're doing it.
Where are my other Mario?
I don't know where your Mario cards are. Go look. Okay, last example, and then I'm stopping this one. So, right angle is here. The hypotenuse will be across from the right angle. So as soon as these get rotated, some students have trouble finding the right angle. Finding the hypotenuse. Always start with the right angle. Then I will label opposite and adjacent based off of this acute angle. So opposite this acute angle on the other side of the triangle is the blank one, meaning the one we won't use. 6 is right next to that acute angle. So if I'm not using, if I'm not using the opposite leg, if I'm using only A and H, that's telling me to use cosine. So I'm going to put COS for cosine. I'm going to write my angle, and I'm going to set it equal to A over H, the adjacent leg over the hypotenuse. So I'm going to cross multiply. I'll put it over 1. 6 times 1 is 6. X times the cosine of 67 is 27 is just that. And then I'll solve. To get x by itself, I need to undo multiplying by the cosine of 27, so I'm going to divide by the cosine of 27.
Mommy,
Ben, that toy is very much broken. You can't play with it. Please put it back.
No.
See if you can type that in your calculator, because if you're doing
I
it right,
just a cat with.
you can't. That doesn't make any sense.
Mommy,
Yes.
fail him. You said why?
If you're not getting 6.7, make sure you are being
Mommy,
very
you
careful with your
fail
calculator,
him.
because you should be doing 6
You
divided by
fail
that
why-
cosine of 27.
Why?
I'm so sorry for the chaos at the end of this video. I'll try and be in a quiet